Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. And today, we're going to be looking at the Gambia.
Okay.
And, in particular, we're focusing on all the calls for reform that are happening over there. We really want to zero in on how government practices
Right.
are actually impacting the nation's stability and its growth.
Yeah.
And, this is especially relevant, I think, for certain groups in the Gambia, young Gambians, women, and the disabled community.
Right.
They're really experiencing all of these, political and economic realities firsthand.
Yeah, for sure.
And so our primary source for this deep dive is Rizki-Produkt Official TV.
Okay.
And they're a platform that's been advocating for social democratic reformation in the Gambia and
Hey.
have a very unique perspective on the current situation.
Okay.
So we're hoping to unpack some of their key arguments today.
Yeah, their use of the term democratic window dressing to critique the current administration is really fascinating.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That term, democratic window dressing, it really stood out to me, too.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying, look, the government is putting on this facade of progress,
Right.
making things look good from the outside, but not addressing the underlying issues.
Exactly.
So how is this democratic window dressing actually playing out
Yeah.
in the Gambia?
Rizki-Produkt Official TV argues that the Barrow administration,
Okay.
while initially promising change, has kind of fallen into this trap of prioritizing appearances
Okay.
over genuine reform.
Yeah.
They point to the continued lack of transparency
Yeah.
in government dealings and the stifling of dissenting voices as examples.
So they're basically saying, hey, we're making progress, but behind the scenes,
Yeah.
things really haven't changed all that much.
Exactly. And that discrepancy between their words and action breeds cynicism,
Right.
especially among young people who are looking for real change.
Yeah, I can see how that would be so frustrating for people who had all this hope
Yeah.
for the post-Gemma era. It's like a broken promise, but on like a national scale.
Precisely. And, this lack of trust in the government
Right.
can really have a ripple effect,
Oh, yeah.
impacting everything from economic development
Yeah.
to even social cohesion.
Yes, speaking of economic development, one of the things that Rizki-Produkt Official TV highlights
Yeah.
is this issue of investment deterrence.
Right.
So can you maybe unpack that a little bit for us?
Sure.
How might this democratic window dressing actually scare off potential investors, both foreign and domestic?
Well, I think it all comes down to stability and predictability. Investors, whether they're, coming from overseas or they're within the Gambia, they want to feel confident that their investments are safe, that the rules of the game won't just suddenly change,
Yeah.
and that there's a level playing field.
Yeah.
And when there's this perception of instability, of like opaque dealings or the government kind of like potentially interfering in the market, that confidence erodes.
It makes sense. Nobody wants to put their money into a situation where the rules are unclear
Yeah.
or could change at any moment.
Right.
It's like trying to build a house on shifting sand.
Exactly.
And so this lack of investment then has very real consequences.
Yeah.
I mean, it means fewer jobs being created, less economic growth,
Yeah.
fewer opportunities for Gambians,
For sure.
and especially young people who are looking to build their futures.
Right.
It's not just like an abstract economic concept.
Right.
It's impacting people's lives directly
Yeah, absolutely.
and their ability to prosper. And this issue of transparency or lack thereof seems to be a recurring theme in Rizki-Produkt Official TV's critique.
Yeah.
They even go so far as to accuse the Barrow administration of engaging in disinformation and censorship.
Right.
So can you tell us a bit more about that? What are they saying exactly?
Well, they argue that the government has attempted to control the narrative and silence dissenting voices
Okay.
through various means, including using state-controlled media to spread propaganda and limiting access to independent news sources.
So they're basically trying to manipulate public perception
Yeah.
and stifle any criticism.
That's the allegation.
Wow.
And they point to specific instances
Okay.
where journalists have been harassed or intimidated for reporting on sensitive issues,
Right.
or where access to online platforms has been restricted.
That's incredibly concerning.
Yeah,
A free and independent press is so vital for any democracy.
absolutely.
It's essential for holding those in power accountable.
Right.
And without access to reliable information,
Yeah.
citizens can't make informed decisions about their lives or about their country.
Exactly. And this clampdown on information can actually have a chilling effect on public discourse.
Oh, yeah.
People become afraid to speak out for fear of reprisal.
Yeah.
It creates an environment where critical thinking
Yeah.
and open debate are stifled.
So it's not just about limiting access to information.
Right.
It's about creating a culture of fear and self-censorship. Wow, and this can have long-term consequences for democratic progress
Yeah.
and for the overall development of a nation.
Absolutely.
It feels like they're trying to just control the narrative instead of addressing these very real concerns that people have.
Yeah.
It feels like a missed opportunity to have like an open and honest dialogue
Right.
about how to move the Gambia forward.
For sure. Yeah, it really does feel like a step backward when you think about fostering open dialogue and democratic participation.
Absolutely.
And this lack of transparency and accountability, it can have a particularly devastating impact on vulnerable groups,
Yeah.
especially women and the disabled community.
That's a good point. Can you maybe explain a little bit more about how those groups are uniquely affected?
Sure. So when information is suppressed
Okay.
and when dissent is silenced, it becomes even harder for marginalized communities
Yeah.
to advocate for their rights and their needs.
Right.
They often lack the platforms and the resources to make their voices heard. And they're disproportionately impacted by things like corruption and the mismanagement of public funds.
So it's like a double whammy.
Exactly.
Not only are they facing all these systemic barriers and inequalities,
right.
but they're also denied the tools and opportunities to actually challenge those injustices.
Exactly. And Rizki-Produkt official TV, they stress the importance of amplifying the voices of these groups and making sure that their perspectives are included in any discussions about reform and development. They argue that true progress can only be achieved when all segments of society are empowered to participate.
For sure.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that everyone has something valuable to contribute
Yes.
and that a diverse range of perspectives leads to better solutions for everyone.
Absolutely. And it's about creating a society where everyone feels safe and supported to speak their minds and advocate for what they believe in.
Now, Rizki-Produkt official TV also advocates for a model they call social democratic reformation.
Yeah.
So can you unpack that a bit for us? Sure. What exactly does that entail?
So at its core, social democratic reformation, as envisioned by Rizki-Produkt official TV, seeks to create a more just and equitable society by balancing economic growth with social welfare.
Got it.
It emphasizes things like universal access to health care and education, strong social safety nets, and worker protections.
So it's not just about growing the economy. It's about ensuring that the benefits of that growth are shared equitably.
Exactly.
And that everyone has that opportunity to thrive.
Exactly. And they argue that this model is particularly relevant for the Gambia, given the high levels of poverty and inequality that persist despite the country's economic potential.
So it sounds like a very people-centered approach. Focused on creating a system that works for everyone, not just a select few.
Precisely. And it recognizes that true progress requires not just economic growth, but also social justice and environmental sustainability.
It's about creating a more holistic and sustainable vision for the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the most striking things about Rizki-Produkt official TV's analysis is their very stark assessment of the challenges facing the Gambia. I mean, they don't shy away from pointing out the very real problems that exist.
They are definitely not afraid to speak truth to power. And one of the issues they've been highlighting recently is the rise in crime and this feeling of insecurity that many Gambians are experiencing.
And especially women.
Especially women.
You know, it's one thing to talk about abstract concepts like democratic reform and all that. But it's another thing entirely to feel unsafe in your own community. That's a very real and immediate concern.
Absolutely. And Rizki-Produkt official TV links this rise in crime to several factors, including the lack of economic opportunity, an under-resourced police force, and the influx of deportees from Europe, many of whom are struggling to reintegrate into Gambian society.
It's a really complex issue with no easy solutions.
It's like a perfect storm of challenges that are putting a strain on communities and creating this climate of fear.
Exactly. And they argue that addressing this issue requires a multifaceted approach. That includes investing in social programs, strengthening law enforcement, and creating pathways for reintegration for returning migrants.
So it sounds like they're advocating for a more compassionate and proactive approach.
They are.
One that addresses the root causes of crime rather than just reacting to it after the fact.
Precisely. They emphasize the need for prevention and rehabilitation.
Right.
Recognizing that simply locking people up isn't a sustainable solution.
Yeah, it's about breaking that cycle of poverty and crime and creating a more just and equitable society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Exactly. And they argue that this approach is not only more effective, but also more humane and more aligned with the values of a truly democratic society.
Now, I've talked a lot about the challenges facing the Gambia. We have.
But I'd like to kind of shift gears a bit and focus on potential solutions.
Sure.
What are some concrete steps that can be taken to address these issues and move the country in a more positive direction?
Well, that's the crucial question, isn't it?
It is.
And while Rizki-Produkt official TV is known for its sharp critiques, they also offer a roadmap for positive change.
Okay.
They believe that a fundamental shift in governance is needed, one that prioritizes transparency, accountability, and citizen participation.
So it's not just about tinkering around the edges. It's about a more systemic overhaul.
Exactly. They advocate for things like strengthening democratic institutions, empowering civil society, and promoting a culture of open dialogue and debate.
Those are big goals.
They are.
And they require a lot of work and commitment from everyone involved.
For sure.
But it seems like Rizki-Produkt official TV believes that change is possible.
They do.
That the Gambia has the potential to build a brighter future.
They do, and they see the energy and the idealism of young Gambians as a driving force for that change. They believe that by mobilizing young people, by empowering them to participate in the political process, and by providing them with the tools and resources they need, the Gambia can overcome these challenges and create a more just and prosperous society for all.
It's a powerful message of hope and agency.
It is, and it's a reminder that even in the face of daunting obstacles, change is possible when people come together and demand better for themselves and for their communities.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, exploring the complexities of Gambian politics and the urgent need for reform.
For sure.
And while the challenges are significant, it's inspiring to see organizations like Rizki-Produkt official TV working tirelessly to create a brighter future for the Gambia.
You know, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier.
This idea of empowering young people, women, and the disabled community. I mean, they're the ones who are going to inherit this country. And ultimately shape its future, right?
Absolutely. And you know what strikes me is that these groups often have the most at stake. And their experiences provide such valuable insight into the true impact of government policies. Like when we talk about economic opportunity or access to healthcare or even just, you know, feeling safe in your community. Their realities are often so different from the picture that's being painted by those in power.
So their voices are essential not only for highlighting the problem, but also for shaping the solutions. They're not just passive recipients of change. They're active agents in creating it.
Exactly. And that's where Rizki-Produkt official TV's focus on social democratic reformation comes in. It's about creating a system that works for everyone, not just a select few. A system that prioritizes social welfare and empowers individuals to reach their full potential.
So it's about leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone has a fair shot at success, regardless of their background or circumstances.
Precisely. And, you know, it recognizes that true progress can only be achieved when all segments of society are empowered to participate and contribute.
Okay, so let's talk about concrete actions then.
Sure.
What can young Gambians, women, and the disabled community actually do to get involved and start driving this change?
Rizki-Produkt official TV emphasizes the power of collective action and civic engagement. They encourage young people to educate themselves about the issues, connect with like-minded individuals and organizations, and really use their voices to advocate for the changes that they want to see.
It's about finding your voice, finding your community, and finding your power to make a difference.
Exactly, whether it's through joining a local advocacy group, participating in peaceful protests, or even just engaging in conversations with friends and family about the issues that matter. Every action, no matter how small, contributes to the momentum for change.
And it's about holding those in power accountable, right?
Absolutely.
Demanding transparency.
Yes.
And pushing for policies that actually reflect the needs and aspirations of all Gambians.
It's about reclaiming the narrative and shaping a future that is more just equitable and prosperous for everyone.
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
Yes.
And it's clear that the Gambia is at a pivotal moment in its history.
It is.
There are some very significant challenges to overcome.
For sure.
But there's also this tremendous amount of hope and potential.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires active participation from all of us. And while the journey toward a more just and equitable society is ongoing, it's a journey worth taking.
So to all the young Gambians, women, and members of the disabled community listening, your voices matter. Your actions matter.
They do.
And your future is in your hands.
Yes.
Get involved, stay informed, and never give up on the fight for a better Gambia.
And remember, the resources and platforms provided by organizations like Rizki-Produkt Official TV can really equip you with the knowledge and the connections to make that difference.
Absolutely. Information is power.
Yes.
And by connecting with organizations like Rizki-Produkt Official TV, you can find that support and the resources you need to make your voices heard and contribute to creating the Gambia you want to see.
It's been a pleasure diving deep into these important issues with you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
And to all our listeners, thank you for taking the time to learn more about the Gambia. We encourage you to continue exploring these issues and engaging in those meaningful conversations about how to create a more just and equitable world for all.
Absolutely.
Until next time. Keep diving deep.